Marcus had been parking my cars for 11 years. 11 years. Since before I made my first million. Since before the penthouse. Since before Victoria. He knew my first car, a beat-up Honda Civic I drove when I was still hustling real estate on the side. He knew my second car, the used BMW I bought when my first development deal closed. He knew every car after that. The Mercedes. The Porsche. The Bentley I drove tonight. Marcus had seen my entire life. So when I pulled up to Le Bernardin on our 10th wedding anniversary and saw his face, I knew something was wrong. He didn't smile. Marcus always smiled. "Good evening, Mr. Ashford," he said. But his voice was off. Quiet. Like he was delivering bad news at a funeral. I stepped out of the Bentley and handed him the keys. "Everything okay, Marcus?" He didn't take them right away. He just stood there, looking at me with something I'd never seen in his eyes before. Pity. "Mr. Ashford." He glanced around, then leaned in close. "I don't know how to say this. But I've known you a long time. And I've parked your cars for a decade, Mr. Ashford. I can't stand here and let you walk into that restaurant not knowing." My stomach dropped. I knew. Somehow, I already knew. "Your wife," he said quietly. "She left with another man about an hour ago. They took his car. A red Ferrari. She was laughing, sir. I didn't move. The city kept going around me. Horns honking. People walking by. The restaurant's door opening and closing as happy couples went inside for their anniversaries, their engagements, their celebrations. And I just stood there. Holding my car keys out to a valet who looked like he wanted to be anywhere else. She was supposed to meet me here, I heard myself say. "It's our anniversary." Marcus nodded slowly. "I know, sir. She was here. Earlier." The man picked her up at 7:15. She seemed happy to see him. Happy. She seemed happy. I thought about the diamond bracelet in my jacket pocket. The one I'd spent 3 months designing with a jeweler in Paris. The one with our anniversary date engraved on the clasp. I thought about the surprise trip to Maldives I'd planned. The private villa. The renewal of vows ceremony I'd arranged on the beach at sunset. I thought about the last 10 years of my life. And something inside me went very, very quiet. I'm not a man who breaks things when he's angry. I'm not a man who shouts or throws punches or makes scenes. I'm a man who calculates. That's how I built a $300 million real estate empire from nothing. Not through emotion. Through calculation. Through patience. Through understanding that the person who keeps their head while everyone else loses theirs is the person who wins. So I took a breath. Then another. And I started thinking. "Marcus," I said calmly. "The man. Did you recognize him?" Marcus hesitated. "I've seen him before, sir. He's been here a few times. Always waiting for someone. Always the red Ferrari." "How many times?" I don't keep exact count, sir. But, maybe a dozen? Over the past few months. Months. Not weeks. Months. I pulled out my phone. My hands were steady. That surprised me. I opened my messages. Found Victoria's name. The last text was from her, 3 hours ago, "Can't wait for tonight. Love you. 2 hearts." I typed 4 words. Read them twice. Hit send. Enjoy your last hour of being rich. Then I put my phone away, handed Marcus a $500 tip, and said, "I won't be needing dinner tonight. But I will need you to remember exactly what time my wife left, and with whom. Someone will be asking you questions soon." Marcus took the money with shaking hands. "Yes, sir. Of course, sir." I walked back to my Bentley, got in, and drove away from the restaurant where I was supposed to celebrate a decade of marriage. I had work to do. Before I tell you what happened next, I want to ask you something. If you found out your spouse was cheating on your anniversary, at the restaurant where you were supposed to meet them, what would you do? Would you confront them? Would you break down? Would you pretend you never found out? Tell me in the comments. Because what I did next, some people would call it calculated. Others would call it cruel. I call it justice. I met Victoria 12 years ago at a charity gala. I was 32, recently wealthy, and still learning how to navigate the world of old money and social climbers. She was 28, beautiful, and working as an event coordinator for the foundation hosting the gala. She wasn't impressed by my money. At least, that's what I thought at the time. She laughed at my jokes. She asked about my work, not how much I made, but what I actually did. She remembered details from our conversations and brought them up weeks later. She made me feel seen. We dated for 2 years before I proposed. The wedding was modest by our standards, only 200 guests. She insisted she didn't need anything extravagant. She just wanted me. I believed her. Looking back, I can see the signs. I just didn't want to. The late nights at her book club that started about a year ago. The new gym membership at a facility across town, why not use the one in our building? The way she'd angle her phone away from me when texting. The sudden interest in her appearance that went beyond normal maintenance. I told myself I was being paranoid. I told myself that trust was the foundation of marriage. I told myself that Victoria loved me. And maybe she did. Once. But somewhere along the line, she'd made a decision. A decision to throw away everything we'd built together. And instead of being honest about it, instead of asking for a divorce like an adult, she chose to humiliate me. On our anniversary. At a restaurant where half the city's elite could witness my shame. Here's what Victoria forgot. When we got engaged, my lawyer insisted on a prenuptial agreement. Standard practice for someone in my position. Victoria signed it without much fuss. She said she didn't care about money, remember? But she didn't read the fine print. Neither did her lawyer, apparently. Or maybe they just assumed the standard infidelity clause was unenforceable. It wasn't. See, most prenups have a basic infidelity clause. You cheat, you get less. Simple. But mine was different. Mine was written by a man named Harold Graves. Harold is 83 years old, has been practicing family law for 57 years, and has seen every trick in the book. He doesn't write prenups. He writes death sentences for anyone who tries to double-cross his clients. The infidelity clause in my prenup wasn't about getting less. It was about getting nothing. Zero. If Victoria was proven to have engaged in an extramarital affair, she would forfeit all claims to marital assets, spousal support, and any future earnings derived from connections made during the marriage. And there was more. A clause that even Harold said was aggressive. If infidelity could be proven through documented evidence, not just suspicion, Victoria would be required to return any gifts valued over $10,000 that she had received during the marriage. That diamond bracelet in my pocket? It was about to become the most expensive thing she ever lost. Now, you might be thinking, proving infidelity is hard. It's her word against mine. Marcus is just a valet. But here's the thing. I'm a businessman. A very successful one. And successful businessmen don't leave things to chance. 3 months ago, when the signs became impossible to ignore, I hired a private investigator. Not a cheap one. A former FBI agent named Diana Cross who specialized in high-net-worth divorce cases. Diana had been following Victoria for 92 days. She had photographs, videos, hotel receipts, text messages obtained through legal means I won't detail here. She had the man's name, Theodore Teddy Harrington III, a trust fund playboy who'd burned through his inheritance and was currently living off wealthy women. Diana had everything. I'd been building this case for 3 months, waiting for the right moment. I thought I might confront Victoria privately. Give her a chance to explain, to confess, to maybe even save what was left of our marriage. But she made that decision for me when she left our anniversary dinner with another man while I was driving to meet her. She chose public humiliation. So I chose public destruction. I drove to my attorney's office. It was 8 p.m. on a Friday night, but Richard Chen didn't care. For what I paid him, he'd meet me at 3 a.m. on Christmas morning. It's time, I said when he answered. Richard had seen the evidence weeks ago. He'd prepared the documents. Everything was ready. I'll have the papers filed Monday morning, he said. But Julian, are you sure you want to do this? This will be nuclear. She left our anniversary dinner with another man, Richard. In front of a valet who's known me for 11 years. In front of everyone who might have seen her get into that Ferrari. Silence on the line. Nuclear it is, Richard said. I'll call Harold. We're going to need the full arsenal. Most people don't understand how quickly wealthy people can move when they want to. By 9 p.m., I had frozen every joint account Victoria had access to. Our joint checking. Our joint savings. The credit cards she used for shopping. Was this legal? In a gray area. But the accounts were in my name, funded by my income, and I was acting on documented evidence of fraud because using marital funds to finance an affair is fraud. By 10 p.m., I had contacted the management company for our penthouse. Victoria's key cards would stop working at midnight. Her parking access would be revoked. The doorman would be instructed to allow her to collect her personal belongings supervised, but she could not enter the residence. By 11 p.m., I had sent a certified letter to Victoria's employer. Yes, she still worked, mostly for appearances, informing them that the consulting fees they'd been paying her were actually paid by my foundation, and that funding would be immediately terminated. Victoria didn't have a job. She had a vanity project I'd been subsidizing for years. By midnight, Victoria went from being a wealthy man's wife to being a woman with no access to money, no home, and no job. And she didn't even know it yet. My phone rang at 12:47 a.m. Victoria. I let it ring 3 times. Then I answered. Julian. Her voice was panicked. Julian, something's wrong with the credit cards. And the doorman won't let me in. He says my access has been revoked? What's going on? I was sitting in my home office, a glass of scotch in my hand, looking out at the city lights. Where are you, Victoria? I'm in the lobby. Julian, this is crazy, tell them to let me up. Talk to the door, Victoria. It's the only thing in this city that still has to listen to you. Where were you earlier tonight? Silence. I was at book club. I told you. Interesting. Because Marcus told me you left Lou Bernardine with a man in a red Ferrari at 7:15 p.m. That's an hour before I arrived for our anniversary dinner. More silence. Longer this time. Julian. Was book club in the back of a Ferrari tonight, Victoria? Was it in a hotel room? Was it worth it? I could hear her breathing. Fast. Panicked. You don't understand. I understand perfectly. I've understood for 3 months. I have photographs, Victoria. Videos. Hotel receipts. I know about Teddy Harrington. I know about all of it. Her voice changed. The panic turned to something harder. You were spying on me? I was protecting myself. From exactly this. Julian, we can talk about this. We can. No, I said simply. We can't. Divorce papers will be filed Monday morning. Under the terms of our prenuptial agreement, which you signed, you are entitled to nothing. No assets. No spousal support. Nothing. That prenup will never hold up in court. It was written by Harold Graves. It will hold up in any court in this country. And Victoria? The infidelity clause requires you to return all gifts valued over $10,000. I suggest you start making a list. I hung up. Then I finished my scotch and went to bed. I slept better than I had in months. Let me pause here and ask you something. Some people would say I was too harsh. That I should have given Victoria a chance to explain. That freezing her out so completely was cruel. But here's my question: if the roles were reversed, if she had found out I was cheating, on our anniversary, in the most public way possible, would you expect her to be understanding? Would you tell her to give him a chance to explain? Or would you tell her to protect herself and leave? I want to hear your honest answer. Because I've thought about this a lot. And I still don't think I did anything wrong. The next few weeks were chaos. For Victoria. For me, they were remarkably calm. Her lawyer called Richard on Monday morning, blustering about the illegal freeze of her assets. Richard sent him a copy of the prenup and the evidence folder Diana had compiled. The lawyer went quiet for 3 days. When he came back, his tone had changed entirely. Perhaps we can discuss a settlement. There's nothing to discuss, Richard told him. Under the prenup, she gets nothing. We're not offering anything. Victoria tried calling me 17 times. I didn't answer. She sent emails. I didn't read them. She tried to show up at my office. Security escorted her out. She went to the press. That was her big mistake. She gave an interview to a gossip blog, painting herself as the victim of a controlling, abusive husband who had trapped her in a loveless marriage. The next day, Diana released a carefully curated selection of photographs to a different outlet. Victoria, laughing in Teddy's arms. Victoria, entering a hotel room. Victoria, accepting an expensive gift from a man who wasn't her husband. The story flipped overnight. Twitter, or X, whatever they're calling it now, had a field day. Hashtag Teen Julian trended for about 6 hours. Not my finest moment, becoming a hashtag. But I'd be lying if I said it didn't feel good to watch Victoria's victim narrative crumble in real time. Her lawyer called again. This time, he was practically begging. My client is willing to waive all claims in exchange for a simple, quiet divorce. She doesn't have any claims to waive, Richard reminded him. But we're willing to offer her the following: she can keep her personal clothing, her car, which is in her name, and we won't pursue the return of gifts valued under $50,000. That's our offer. And the jewelry? The art? The returns to my client. Per the prenup. The lawyer sighed. I'll talk to her. Victoria signed the papers 2 weeks later. Let me be clear about what Victoria walked away with. Her personal clothing. Maybe $50,000 worth, though most of it I'd paid for. Her car. A Mercedes G-Wagon I'd bought her for her birthday 3 years ago. But it was in her name, and I wasn't petty enough to fight for it. About $30,000 in jewelry that fell under the $50,000 threshold. And that's it. No alimony. No property. No stake in any of my businesses. No claim to the penthouse, the vacation homes, the investment accounts, the art collection. Nothing. She went from being worth on paper, through marriage, about $150 million, to being worth whatever she could get for a used G-Wagon and some jewelry. Her new boyfriend, Teddy? He disappeared approximately 3 hours after the prenup evidence became public. Turns out his interest in Victoria was directly proportional to her access to my money. Last I heard, she was living with her sister in New Jersey, working at a real estate agency. Entry level. I'm not going to lie. That gave me some satisfaction. But here's the thing they don't tell you about revenge. It doesn't feel the way you think it will. For about 2 weeks after the divorce was finalized, I felt vindicated. Powerful. Like I'd won. Then the emptiness hit. I'd spent 10 years of my life with this woman. I'd loved her, or at least, I'd loved who I thought she was. We'd talked about having children. We'd built a life together. And now it was just gone. Not because of her affair. I could have survived that, maybe. Worked through it with therapy, with time. It was the betrayal of it. The calculation. The way she'd smiled at Marcus on her way to another man's car, knowing I was driving to meet her. That's what I couldn't forgive. And now, even with the victory, I was alone. 52 years old. Rich beyond measure. And completely, utterly alone. So what did I learn from all this? First, trust, but verify. I should have seen the signs earlier. I should have paid attention to my instincts instead of convincing myself I was being paranoid. Second, protect yourself. The prenup saved me. Without it, Victoria would have walked away with half of everything I'd built. Harold Graves earned his fee 1,000 times over. Third, revenge is a meal best served cold. If I'd confronted Victoria emotionally, if I'd screamed, or begged, or made a scene, I would have given her ammunition. I would have looked like the crazy one. By staying calm, by being strategic, I controlled the narrative. And fourth, winning doesn't always feel like winning. I got everything I wanted. I kept my money. I exposed her lies. I watched her fall from grace. And I still felt empty. Because the real loss wasn't the money. It was the years. The trust. The future I thought we were building together. No prenup can protect you from that. It's been 18 months since that night at the Valet stand. I've dated a little. Nothing serious. It's hard to trust again when you've been burned like that. Every time a woman laughs at my jokes or asks about my work, I wonder, is this real, or is this another Victoria? That's the damage she did. Not to my bank account. To my ability to believe in people. But I'm working on it. Therapy helps. So does time. Marcus still parks my car at Lou Bernardine. I go there sometimes, alone, just to remind myself that I survived. He always gives me a little nod. A silent acknowledgement of what we both witnessed that night. I still tip him well. Always will. As for Victoria, I heard she got engaged again recently. To a dentist in Newark. I hope she's learned something. I hope she treats him better than she treated me. But honestly, I don't think about her much anymore. I've got a company to run. A life to rebuild. A future to figure out. And I'm going to be just fine. If you're watching this and you're going through something similar, if you've been betrayed, if you're wondering whether to fight or walk away, let me tell you what I wish someone had told me. Protect yourself first. Emotionally, legally, financially. Don't let guilt or love or nostalgia stop you from doing what you need to do to survive. Document everything. If you suspect something, gather evidence. Legally. Carefully. You might never need it. But if you do, you'll be grateful you have it. Don't make decisions when you're emotional. That's when you make mistakes. That's when you say things you regret. Take a breath. Think. Calculate. And finally, know that it gets better. I know it doesn't feel like it now. I know you're in pain. But time does what time does. The wound will heal. The scar will fade. And one day, you'll look back on this moment and realize it was the beginning of something new. Something better. Before I go, I want to ask you one more question. Knowing everything you know now, the prenup, the investigation, the way I froze her out overnight, do you think I was justified? Or did I go too far? I've asked myself that question 100 times. I still don't have a definitive answer. Maybe I never will. But I want to know what you think. Drop your answer in the comments. Be honest. I can take it. That's my story. Your wife left with another man an hour ago. 6 words that changed my entire life. I lost a wife. I kept my fortune. I learned a lot about myself, some of it good, some of it not. And I learned that Marcus, the valet, was a better friend to me than the woman I'd been married to for a decade. Life is strange like that. If this story resonated with you, if you've been through something similar or you just appreciate a good revenge tale, hit that subscribe button. Leave a comment. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. And remember, sometimes the best revenge isn't just living well. It's living well with an ironclad prenup. I'm Julian Ashford. Thanks for listening. I'll see you in the next one.